Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 230 of the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. How are you, Timslow? Today we have an interesting episode today because...
I don't know what to say about this movie.
And my TUBI TRAP, I'm not even sure what to say anymore. So this may literally be the episode of Ken's Dreams and will be about 5 minutes long.
Yes, I don't know. I watched this movie, which I was really looking forward to. And I just texted Brian and I said, well, that was something because I don't know what to say about it, but we're going to get into it. We do have a quick first chop, though, so let's get right to it. Our first chop. All right, Brian, I only watched one movie, and I actually have not finished it yet, to be perfectly honest, but I've gotten enough that I know I'm going to enjoy it. It just came out on Shudder. It's called The FREAKMAKER from 1974. And, I mean, how have I not heard of this movie? It's got Donald Pleasance, it's got freak shows, and it was my birth year horror movie.
Oh, my God, Tim.
How have I not heard of this? So I saw it on Shudder. I immediately saw Donald Pleasance. I saw 1974. I was like, okay, I'm in. And this one's about Donald Pleasance plays this, I don't want to say mad scientist. He's a scientist, also a professor, that is working on solving the problems of world hunger. He's very interested in mutations and plant life, and he thinks that he can create this hybrid plant-animal species, and that will somehow solve world hunger. And so I guess he's a little bit of a mad scientist, but he plays it very, very dry and typical Donald Pleasance, very serious. And he has this weird lab full of like cannibalistic plants and carnivorous plants, and they're the typical 1970s, kind of the same plants you'd see on Star Trek that just look super, super fake. But so he's in cahoots with this guy that runs a circus, this very deformed guy that runs a circus, and this circus has a whole bunch of freaks in it. What's interesting though is that the freaks are played by actual freaks, like and I know freaks is not a politically correct term, but it's played by real sideshow performers. So there's the alligator skin lady, the dwarves, the bearded lady. All these people are real.
Well, I mean, it was like the movie Freaks. They had real
which I was surprised though, because I thought that was because that was in the 30s, but this is like 1974. I was kind of shocked that they were still like using real performers in this. But yeah, I went and looked it up to make sure. Some of them you can tell it wasn't special effects; it was obviously real people. But that was interesting. So they're kind of kidnapping people to help Donald Pleasance experiment on, and it's entertaining because I like the theme of it. I don't know how good a movie it's going to turn out to be because I haven't finished it about halfway through it. And the one thing I will say though is they have a lot of exposition on trying to explain to the audience everything about DNA, mutations, carnivorous plants. There's you're basically watching a college lecture at the start of the movie as Donald Pleasance is explaining how carnivorous plants work. So it's kind of funny that they're having to put all this exposition in just to keep the audience up to speed. But anything with those themes, I think, is going to be great. Yeah. So I'll give you my full review maybe next week when I've finished it. Nice. The other thing I was telling the guys about it, Ken, Steve, and Brian earlier, was a very creepy kind of ghost story that happened to Anna, my daughter.
Wait, before you tell it, let's cue the music. See, okay. If we had the Roadcaster, I could have hit a button and we could have done it. So we just have to imagine that there's music playing, and maybe Tim could add it in later, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm gonna seriously try to ask for one of those for Christmas. But yeah, all right. So Anna woke up about 3 or 4 in the morning the other night, and she woke up Olivia, and because she had this dream, and Olivia asked her what it was, and she said she woke up because she felt somebody sitting on her bed, touching her arm, and she had just had this dream. So Olivia asked her what the dream was about, and she said that she was sitting in a beach house with Papa. Now Papa is Olivia's dad; he died last year, and they did have a beach house. Now Anna has been to the beach house before, but she was very young last time she was there, so I was kind of surprised that she even remembered the beach house. But she said Papa was sitting in this rocking chair at the beach house, and he was talking to her, and she said he was telling her about the afterlife. And just before she woke up, he said, "I'm going to visit you again." And then she woke up. And I said, "Well, what did he say about the afterlife?" She said, "Well, I don't remember. I can't remember anything about what he said," which is kind of creepy too, you know?
Yeah.
So it's almost like, you know, they can reveal what it is, but then you're not allowed to remember it. But anyway, so so that was the creepy story. So she felt like she had seen and talked to Olivia's dad. What was kind of weird is they weren't like super, super, super close, you know? So it wasn't like, you know, she's all the time missing him and that kind of thing. Like, it was really kind of out of left field. And what's interesting too is that at the same time, the next day, Olivia was telling her mom about the dream, and she said, "Well, you know, your dad still doesn't have his name on his gravestone."
Oh.
And Olivia's like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, he still doesn't have his name on it because I couldn't afford it at the time. So he's just buried under the family plot, but he doesn't have his name on and his date of death and everything on the tombstone." And I was like, "Olivia, we got to get that like done now.
Yeah.
You need to like write a check and get that done."
Yeah, seriously. Maybe her review of the afterlife, what she was told is about your like Ghostbusters afterlife review. You know, like you felt like felt like something was missing. I don't know.
I don't know. So anyway, that was my creepy ghost story for the week.
And like Anna is like Julie and I have the pleasure of being able to spend a lot of time with, you know, Tim, Olivia, and the kids. And so Anna is very soft-spoken, so I could just imagine her telling it to her in her voice adds that, like, dimension because of creepiness, because she's like very, you know, she talks nice and slow and, like, very, very, like, very, like, calm voice. So but, like, soft-spoken at the same time. So I could just feel, you could, like, almost sense how creepy it must have sounded as she was telling it, but not like intentionally, just the way she speaks. You know, she speaks like very like kind of well, when we see her, she's like more shy and reserved a little bit. So
yeah, but she's also very like, she's not very like given to like exaggeration, and she's very logical, very matter of fact, scientific. So when she has something weird like that happen, I'm like, oh, that's really creepy.
I remember you used to have her do that like creepy laugh thing she did, like like that thing. That's pretty fun. Hey, your daughter there has a way of freaking you out, because remember she did that story you told with the middle of the night when she was standing there in the hallway. Like that always cracks me up.
It's funny now that she came in tonight and she was like, she had her like neck like bent, and she had like her shoulder hunched up. And she's got like long blonde hair, and I was like, "You look like the dude from Riff Raff from Rocky Horror Picture Show."
Why was she like that? Why was she like the bent neck daughter?
She was just like messing around. I was like, "Why are you?" I was like, "My God, you could be him for Halloween."
Oh my God, that's great. There you go. You know.
Anyway, God, so that's my creepy story for the week.
Yeah, no, that is creepy. And you know, that's like. You know, you hear those tales all the time, and you know, you have to, like, whether you're a believer or not, you almost have to be open to accept that other people believe that. You know, it's like, you know, be open at least. You know, maybe you personally don't believe that, listening to these things, but I've heard way too many of these stories to ever question it. You know, yes, while it hasn't really happened to me in that kind of manner, it's like I believe it does happen. You know.
Well, like I was telling the guys, too, before the podcast, it happened to my mom. She dreamed that her dad called her on the phone and was talking to her. It happened to my grandmother. Hers was really weird because her friend died, but in her dream, she saw her friend in a coffin with brunette hair.
Oh.
And her friend, I might be getting the details wrong, but her friend had like blonde hair. And so she couldn't understand why she saw her friend in a coffin with brunette hair. And then she come to find out her friend had died of cancer, and they had put a different color wig on her.
Oh, that's really creepy.
It's happened to Olivia. It's happened to my mom. Like, I guess it's weird. It's like, I feel like there's like 4 or 5 of these dream visitation stories that run in the family.
Wow. Well, to no surprise, you'll hear this one with Julie. When things happen like that, sometimes in her dreams, she'll see that she manages to banish them away. Is that not surprising? Like, knowing that you know Julie so well now at this point, like knowing that, like, if anyone would just be able to go, nope,
Yeah,
not happening
I'm
right
done.
now. Like that.
Yep,
And I told you that one time where she woke me up in a dead sleep because all of a sudden she went, get the hell out of here, like at the top of her lungs in the middle of the night, and like she just woke up screaming that, which was really fun to be, because you remember that East Meadow house. I'm convinced that was haunted. That was kind of old.
Yeah.
Creepy
That was
house,
kind of...
and then and so that, but yeah, no, I totally believe, like, my mom always tells a story, like she was driving, I think she was driving home from, it was when I was living with my dad. I think she was coming home after dropping me off after the weekend, and she was heading back home, and I guess there's this parkway that she used to take back to her old place. It was the Bronx River Parkway, and it's very, at least it was back then. I think they've expanded a little of it, but it's one of these windy kind of parkways, and but can get very busy. And I guess what happened, and I don't know what happened per se that led to this, but somehow she something caught on her tire, and she did one of these spins, the cars that they'll spin around, and she kind of spun around and was going towards the side of the road. And she said right as she was about to come to a complete stop, she said she saw her grandmother, who had passed away for years, like standing there with a whole bunch of people, like arm in arm, like a whole bunch of old people she didn't recognize, just holding like on the side of the road, like holding each other's hands, like as almost like a barrier. And she like stopped, and then, she looked around and, I guess got her bearings back together, and then just kind of drove the car off the road to get her, to get prepped to go back and drive again. As soon as she did that, like, cars started coming back and forth again. Like it was so it's like, she always tells that story, and the way she describes it is so like realistic, so. Yeah, I mean, you have to be at least open to these things, whether you truly believe it or not. Give to other people the benefit of the doubt that they're not, they're not making this up. They truly see. Maybe it's like a force ghost. You need to see at the right time. You need to be one with the force, I guess. Because it's like perfect too, because based off of the movie tonight we're gonna be discussing has a bit of Star Wars connection. But anyway, before we get into that stuff, I do one little note before I get into my wonderful TUBI trap. Was so I've officially booked for me and my friends that we're doing that. I had mentioned we're doing a high school groups trip. We're all turned 50 this year or about to turn 50. So our core group of high school friends are doing Vegas, and so we booked we all bought the combo package, and now I booked it officially. The lady got back to me with our times and stuff. So we're gonna be first doing the Saw escape room, and then right after that, it's like about a half-hour break, and then we do the Blair Witch one. So, which I'm really excited.
I'd be kind of terrified to do a Saw escape room.
Well, yeah,
they're gonna put those metal traps on your head.
Well, yeah, and from what I understand is these are not. They call them the Saw experience and the Blair Witch experience. So they're escape rooms, but like from what I understand, I didn't want to read too much about it because I don't want to totally go in surprise. But I wanted to get a little bit of an idea of what kind of it was. So apparently, like, I think the Saw one is made up of 6 mini rooms. So you have about 7 or 8 minutes in each room to kind of get through, and there's a whole storyline where Jigsaw tells you what's going to happen, that he's trapped you and stuff. And they said it's like highly themed, and they said there are actors in there that sometimes can help you solve the clue to get out. And the thing is like, it's not like you're gonna be trapped in the first room. I did read that they're like, regardless, you're gonna advance to the next rooms. It's just whether you solve everything is what it is, because it is true the experience. And the Blair Witch one, I guess, is very similar, where you encountered thing. But it's funny, one of it like when I read one of the things, which sounds really kind of fun, it said for the Blair Witch, it said 8 people, totally allowed in the room, as the max for the group. They said one of you will have to crawl. This is what it said.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know what that...
That's ominous.
Yeah, so I don't know
funny.
if there's a sequence where you gotta go under a tunnel, but supposedly it's like really elaborately themed, like theme park level theming, and it's like you go from scene to scene. I think Blair Witch has a few scenes. I know Saw, they said 6. So it sounds like a really kind of a fun experience. I'm kind of glad we're doing, because I heard that out of the two, the Saw is the weaker one, believe it or not. I don't know what the reason why. Like I said, I didn't want to go into too much detail, but a lot of people are saying it seems like the Blair Witch got a better review. So I'm kind of glad we're doing that one second. Rather than to do that.
I'm interested in hearing your review of one of these premium escape rooms, because the Universal Back to the Future and Jurassic Park escape rooms are opening up, and I'm just really curious to see what that experience is like a really high end escape room.
Yeah, because the one we did, we all did when Seth was there and stuff. It was okay, but like I feel like it's like that's the more traditional one. It's like you're in literally a room. And you got to get unlocked. I'm looking forward to it, and of course, I'll all that trip anyway. I'm sure I'll be posting stuff. Not some horror, obviously, some not. It's Vegas, so whatever. There'll be a lot of stuff, but I'll make sure. But I will do a full review on that. And maybe even, who knows, when I'm there, I can probably maybe talk to someone. Maybe someone from the thing will come on the show as like at a later date to kind of go through that, because I'd actually love to have someone who runs a horror experience, quote, like that. I know we had a Jan Newth that did that horror house, but I kind of would love kind of the escape room version of it also on there. I think that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
So, and let's, I guess, move on to the inevitable, which is my TUBI trap. I tell you, these TUBI traps are really kind of exactly what we expected them to be. I think we did the right thing, though, by not bombarding you listeners there with 2 every episode. So I like that kind of the alternate. I think that's a better way to do this. It makes more sense anyway. But so Tim was gracious enough to provide me with, I asked Julie if she'll let me post a picture of her reaction to when I got the text from Tim saying what I'd be watching. This one is Amazon Hotbox.
I went in a different direction.
Yeah, but I mean, and the funniest thing is, right off the bat, through the credits, it says their special effects company was called 12 Minute Effects, and throughout the course of this movie, I feel like they only used 1/3 of the 12 minutes, because it was one of these movies where the effects are just the blood effects, or the digital blood effect that just looks usually so horrible. The
CGI blood is terrible.
Yeah,
but that should never be used.
But mostly they will, if you notice, a good low budget movie will try and hide it by making it dark. No, but this didn't even go that way. It's like it's. I mean, there's sequences where it's in pure daylight and they use this fake blood, and it just looks so bad. Or they lit it too well in scenes when it was inside. So, but yeah. Yeah, and I watched this movie, and, I probably still, I mean, it was one of these ones where they tried this really crazy, convoluted plot to the point of where not only did I lose interest, like, about 15 minutes in, I still don't even know if I can recall, even with my notes, what was going on here. But, I mean, it starts off basically these 3 women are getting, brought to this prison in this long, exaggerated 15-minute walking sequence amongst the credits. There's the typical one girl that doesn't belong there. She shouldn't have been there because she did or something for some reason. And then it kind of cuts to this briefing room. I don't know if this is the cops, a set of spies, FBI, CIA. I don't know what team this is, but apparently they're the quote unquote good guys, or in this case, gals. And I guess they try. This is where they go to the way too convoluted plot about some guy who I guess he was a stoner, but he took over this island in an authoritarian regime that he just started calling himself El Presidente. But then I guess he got overtaken now by some Russian woman and a midget. Like I'm saying, like this part is like right after they do this whole exposition, it doesn't even, what the scene they cut to doesn't even match to what they just said, really. I don't know what's going on, but the funniest thing is the prison attire. There was one main point to this movie, and of course that was the titillation factor, because like all the women prison attire is, instead of orange jumpsuits or anything, they're these skin tight, like striped dresses. which is exactly what you do. And then the one moment I thought that was like the kind of like heartwarming in the world of civil war, at least, is Tristan Risk, an actress who actually follows us on Instagram, and she was, of course, American Mary. She was in American Mary, but of course, one of the
I like
big Civil War lore histories is she was the actress that was responsible for the Vajay Ball, which goes way, way back to like OG.
That's
Civil
an inside
War.
joke from it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to go back to that one or private messages, because I'm not gonna go to explain that whole thing again. But anyway, she comes in and she's like the big bad in the prison, the tough one. That has like and she's like totally intentionally, you can tell, is overacting, and she adds this like weird southern twang and growl to her voice, and anyway, then after that whole thing, it's shower time, and this the one warden who's not even a warden, he's like some guy, some old carny or something from there, but he comes up, he says, "Time to scrub the fleas from the trees," as he says. So he brings them all into the shower, and then there's this weird shower scene, of course, where it's really not any washing in there going on. It's just nude talking pretty much for about 15 minutes. Then they so the new girl gets attacked by the Vajay Ball's minions, while Vajay Ball herself starts like a whole shower orgy off to the side there. So yeah, now it's a typical like one of these type of exploitation movies pretty much going on. Then all of a sudden the Russian officer and this doctor she has, they have all these, I guess, experimentations they're going to do on these women. One of them is a drug that makes them sex crazed, which I really thought was overkill since they seem to already be that. And then it just goes more of that, to where that one guy that was trying to get that guy, I guess, got overthrown. El Presidente character is trying to escape, while that whatever that CIA or other groups trying to infiltrate it and take over the island. I mean, like I said, like the interest level has been long gone at this point. There's not enough nudity in the world at this point that could have saved this movie to even barely get my attention back to it. And of course, inexplicably later, there's just zombies come out of nowhere. And poor Vajay Ball eventually gets killed by her friends. They turn on her. She kind of like has a reveal that she was like it was all an act just to survive the prison, so she wasn't really that mean. But she gets stabbed like about 100 times in slow motion, which goes on for at least the last 10 minutes of the movie. And then inexplicably, I guess the chopper comes in with the head CIA person. I think they just start shooting up the island, and then and for some reason, I guess the Russian woman decides that she's got to give up, so she's going to torture. So she puts herself in a torture machine that just like first it kind of gives like this molten lava on her boobs or something, and then she gets a drill in the eye, and then she incinerates herself. I mean, literally, as confusing as it sounds, me telling it is about as confusing as the movie is you watching it. So yeah, that's Amazon Hotbox was exactly what you would expect. It's kind of like one of those women's exploitation movies, just disguised with some other extra plot points that really make no sense. So
Jeez.
I can't wait till like Tim gets to see what he's gonna do. Part of me wants to just send it to you and hear your live reaction, but without telling the audience what it is.
Do it. We can do it like we did that one time.
Okay, so I am going to send Tim the movie that he is going to have to watch, and he can react live here. Especially, I think the tagline is the best to this because.
Oh my gosh, I've seen this one. I've almost picked this one for you.
Oh no, you saw the movie actually?
No. I've seen the poster.
Oh, okay.
and the usually, well, I shouldn't say that the poster being good means the movie's any good, because a lot of times it's the exact opposite, because Zillafoot had an awesome poster, but this one they didn't even try to make the poster good.
Yeah, no.
So I don't know what to think.
This looks like it was photoshopped together, this thing.
Yes, like poorly photoshopped together. So yeah. Wow.
But,
okay, well, you guys are in for a treat next week.
Yeah, Tim probably is not, however.
No, I'm probably not.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get on to our main feature. This is one I was super looking forward to. The movie is called Mad God. It was, I guess, first released last year. Shudder just recently got the rights to it. It's directed by Phil Tippett. Phil Tippett, if you are a Star Wars fan or any kind of fan really of sci-fi fantasy, you should know that name because he's just a visual effects pioneer and genius.
Yeah, I mean he designed. I mean, one of the most famous things he designed was the Rancor. But I mean, like literally, if you look at his IMDb page, I mean, the movies that he's part of. I mean, from the Twilight Saga. I mean, he did
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that movie Evolution, even, which was a comedy. He's done The Haunting, which was not a pleasing movie for me, but I did not like that movie. But the effects were good. I mean, Starship Troopers, Dragonheart, some of the Tremors movies. He's got some good horror credit. Willow, RoboCop.
Yeah.
I mean, one of his big horror movies was House 2: The Second Story. So, I mean. He's done, pretty much if you've seen a cool effect or creature in a film, he's probably been responsible for it to some level. Either inspired it or he did it.
And he really did, advance the art of stop motion. Because he did, the Tauntaun in Empire Strikes Back. The technology to do the go motion where they do it's basically stop motion, but there's a blurring effect, motion blur to it to make it look more realistic. I mean, he's won Oscars for this stuff. Yeah.
Oh my god, how could we forget Tim? He did Piranha, the original Piranha movie.
Yeah,
I almost forgot about that. I mean, right there. I mean, that's
So he is just a stop motion god and a mad god, I guess.
In this one, he's mad.
Because this is a really, really dark movie. It stars Alex Cox as the last man, Nikita Roman as nurse/witch, and Satish Radhakonda as surgeon. Now, when I say star, these parts don't really have any dialogue. This movie is pretty much largely no dialogue except for kind of gibberish that you hear. But I'll read you the synopsis. It's not going to do anything to clue you into what this movie's about. A corroded diving bell descends amidst a ruined city, and the assassin emerges from it to explore a labyrinth of bizarre landscapes inhabited by freakish denizens. So, I don't know that I can spoil this movie because I couldn't tell you what it's about. When I got through watching it, and Joshua watched a little bit of it with me, and he was just totally confused. He was like, what in the world are you watching? There's no standard, really, plot structure to this at all. I thought going into it, it's more, before you watch it, instead of going into it thinking there's going to be any kind of story to it, it's really more like watching a nightmare where it just kind of starts in the middle and it ends in the middle and you don't really know what happened. It was just a series of things that you're watching, when you have a bad nightmare. Yeah. That's kind of what this is.
Exactly.
It really is.
I'm glad you said that because that's exactly how I would have described it. It feels like one of those, like you were in a perpetual nightmare, like things are just not making sense and things are feel unescapable, and it's kind of like that's kind of the whole vibe of this movie, I think, it's like.
Yeah, I think the closest thing I could give you to a synopsis, and I feel like the first half of the movie is a little more easy to wrap your head around than the second half, but this assassin character, this weird goggle-eyed character, comes down in this diving bell into this world, and he just keeps descending through these layers and layers and layers of it's almost like a apocalyptic city hellscape.
Kind of reminds me of like the Matrix a little bit, the real where they really are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so this is industrial, dark, bleak hellscape, and he keeps descending down and down and down, and so you're witnessing all these layers of this just giant city, and then when he gets to the bottom, I think the overall arching thing is he's trying to plant a bomb,
right,
to blow this something up, which appears to be like a baby, some kind of leader, that looks like a bunch of TV screens with a baby mouth and baby. It talks
had
like
real
a baby.
Teeth though.
It had real mouth teeth. I don't know. It's crazy. But as he's going along this journey to plant this bomb or whatever, he's passing all these weird things that live in this world. And there's a really big. You see it come up over and over, this big motif of just how totally worthless life is in this world. I mean, just things just get killed just randomly, like constantly. There's one extended sequence where they have these like almost slave looking figures that are kind of look like they're made out of lint, and they're like toiling away doing this job, and they're just like, if a crane comes by and just like knocks one of them into a vat of lava, or if they get squished by a steamroller, it doesn't matter. It's like they're so expendable.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest theme, is life is so expendable in this movie that just things die everywhere. And it's so, it's extremely bleak and disturbing. And the fact that it's stop motion, I was thinking about stop motion because I was like, how do you make a stop motion movie scary? And the best thing I could come up with is, you guys that grew up in the 90s watched the old Tool videos.
Yeah.
And these are very much along that vein. Those were really creepy, and those used like stop motion. So think of like a Tool video, but extended out to 80 some minutes. That's what this feels like, an extended Tool video. And I think the reason I think that stop motion can be creepy, and I was trying to figure this out in my mind, was it looks like, because the very nature of stop motion is it has to be small. It has to be small enough for the animators to get their hands on it and animate it. And if it's small, it's going to be basically a doll, right? A doll or a puppet, which are kind of inherently creepy. But with stop motion, you're bringing these things to life. So now you've got an inanimate object, like a small inanimate object that's being brought to life. And that's always, to me, I think there's some kind of underlying creep factor to that, no matter what happens. That's why there's so many haunted doll movies and things like that. But stop motion is kind of inherently small inanimate things being brought to life, so there's a creep factor there. So don't let the stop motion thing fool you. There's some really, really disturbing imagery of this.
Yeah.
Do you agree, Brian?
Yeah, no, I will. Yeah, I definitely agree. And one of the things is about that is, I know we kept saying that, the plot is confusing. Is there a plot, whatever? But the thing is it's almost like it's almost like an hour and a half. Maybe it's just under an hour and a half. I think it's like 83 minutes. It's like an 83-minute like tribute to Phil Tippett's amazing skill, because like, even though I didn't know what's going on 90% of the time of this movie, I still like was just mesmerized because it was just so well done. Like it's by far one of the most what's the word I'm looking for? Not aggressive, but like ambitious stop motion that I've seen, because I mean there's times where it looks like there's a full set piece, like live action's full set piece. That
the backgrounds are so intricate, and you can tell what's neat is you can tell he used things from around the house. I mean, there's like, you can look and see like, oh, I've seen those little gargoyle bookends before, and that's there.
Like a clock or something. Yeah,
a clock. Yeah,
it's just really impressive. I mean, and so it's like basically he didn't. There was never a moment where the stop motion, either set or action, looked like it didn't work. Like, it always looked like it worked. Like, he always found a way to make it believable going on. And I thought that's why it's like, I don't even know if you need to understand what's going on to appreciate the movie. We sure didn't really understand it. We both did not understand a lot of it, what was going on. But like I said, I think to enjoy it, you just need to watch it.
No, I thought it was brilliant, and I didn't understand a damn thing that was going on. Now, I will say, after I watched the movie, I went to read a synopsis of it, because I was like, obviously I'm missing something, because I don't understand what the narrative of this movie was. I read the synopsis, and I'm going, oh, okay, so the stuff happened exactly the way I saw it happen. It's just that there is no narrative structure to this. It's just a series of things that happen, and that is the synopsis. So, I would say if you are a fan of, again, stop motion, which I've always been a fan of. It's back to the Ray Harryhausen days of Jason and the Argonauts and Clash of the Titans, all that stuff. I love that stuff. And Nightmare Before Christmas, of course. So I always love stop motion, just the technique of it, which this is full of cool stop motion techniques. And then you layer that on with just the interesting blend of techniques he used, because like The Last Man that's in here is not stop motion. I don't know how it. At times, I couldn't tell if it was CGI or a real person overdubbed with CGI.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I want to say I believe it was a true person, but I mean, because it definitely looked like it. Otherwise, it was the best effects I've ever seen to make it look like a real human in the middle of all this. And I think there were a couple of times where I think there were some brief cheats where I think it might have been like a close up of one of the stop motion characters' hands, and it was real hands, for the effect. But that's okay. That's okay because, I mean, you could, it's just look. I mean, it's movie trickery. The whole thing is just one long movie effect. So, I mean, I don't feel cheated. When I say cheat, just me, just for lack of a better word. But I mean, I think. And you know what I noticed too, which I thought was really good. Like you obviously knew it was stop motion because there was that like just the hint of jerkiness that almost looked intentionally left in, like just so you know that it's stop motion. Like there's like because a lot of stop motions, like you see like Nightmare Before Christmas, very fluid and small compared to like the original stop motion stuff, that you used to see back in the day, where it was like you now look at the Tauntaun motion, you can totally tell that it was. It wasn't a CGI, it was a puppetry thing. And so, but now it, I think now that his technique has gotten so good, I feel like almost he left in an intentional little bit of jerkiness just to give you that, give you the true stop motion feel. Did you notice that, like how fluid it was almost 99% of the time? It's a couple of scenes. There was just a little hint of jerkiness that looked intentional.
Yeah, and I don't know how much too, because this film was started in the 90s, and then he didn't finish it, and then like it wasn't until like several years ago that they did a Kickstarter to try to people persuaded him to finish the movie. So I don't know. I couldn't tell like where did the old footage stop and where did the new footage begin. So I don't know if that could be part of it. I don't know.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see like what parts of the film were the 90s stuff and what part was the modern stuff.
Well, I will say whatever was in it, even if it was still in the 90s, I didn't see one spot where I would say like, oh yeah, that doesn't look as good as the others. So
yeah, the only part I saw that looked like a lower quality was the sequence, and without giving any spoilers.
With the really colorful sequence with all the colors.
No, that too. But there was another sequence where the assassin kind of wakes up and he's kind of like looking around, and I couldn't tell if that footage was old stuff and it just looked worse because it was older, or if that was an intentional effect.
Yeah,
and I'm almost leaning towards it was an intentional effect. So. I don't know. I would love to see a commentary on this movie because I've got so many questions.
Yeah, if they release this on Blu-ray and it has a commentary on it, I think I might have to buy it just for that alone. Just because I want to see I want to hear him discuss things, because I've seen him enough interviews with him, through all the different Star Wars documentaries I've watched, to know that he's really good at informing you on what's going on. So.
Yeah, and it's as bleak as it is. I mean, typically I don't like movies that are that bleak in terms of I like them the first time I sit through them. I don't like to rewatch them. This one I could definitely see rewatching. Maybe not like to sit down and like study every frame, but maybe to have it on in the background or something, because there's so many things that I just want. I almost like I want to know more about the things that are in this world. Like you see so many things that are never explained. And creatures that are never, you're not going to get any knowledge of outside of what you saw in this brief 2-minute scene. And it's just fascinating. There's some really cool creature designs and stuff in here that I almost wish there was like one of those books they used to do that where it would have like all the different, like for Star Wars, like it would have all the different aliens.
Oh,
you could see everything about them. Like I wish they had that for this movie where you could just read about like, okay, what is the assassin? Like in Phil Tippett's mind, he's probably got some kind of backstory for these things. Like, what is this? How does this work? So, I highly recommend this. It's really, really fascinating movie. Again, don't go in expecting a narrative, because if you do, you're going to be definitely disappointed. But go in just for the experience of it, the visuals of it, the real treat of seeing stop motion horror, which is not something you get to see every day. I mean, stop motion has typically been more for fantasy, sci-fi, comedy, kid stuff. To see a true stop motion horror film, and I'm talking, this stuff is horror. There's no doubt about it. This is stuff designed to make you uncomfortable. It's well worth the short runtime.
Yeah, so it's actually playing on the screen. I think it'd be cool. It's in the IFC Center in New York City, which would probably be really cool. Imagine seeing this on a big screen. Like, this would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I would love to see it on a big screen, because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff in the background I missed. Some of the background detail, I'd love to watch it again, kind of looking for, some of that kind of stuff. But yeah, really, really crazy. I mean, this looks like, really, Mad God is just such an apt description. It's like the kind of what they opened with a quote from the Bible, like Old Testament God.
Yeah.
That was really, that kind of like set the stage for like what a bleak, unforgiving world this was. So I thought that was really interesting as well. So I'm really interested to hear from you guys that watch it, what you think, and I get some feedback from some of our listeners on what you thought of this, because I thought it was just really, really fascinating, and one of the more visually, one of those movies that kind of stick in your mind. This one has stuck in my mind ever since I watched it. I keep flashing back to certain scenes and stuff, so that's always a good sign of a horror movie that got to you. So I highly recommend it. It's on Shudder now. No excuse not to watch it. Tim Bob says, check it out.
Tim Bob.
All right, so I can't wait to hear what beer pairing you got for this one, Brian.
So I found one, and it was actually called Blood Mad God of the Void. It's by a brewery called Ardwolf Brewing Company in Jacksonville, Florida. It's got 6%, and it says red wine barrel, aged sour blonde ale with prickly pear, passion fruit, and hibiscus.
Ooh,
So
that sounds good.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that mix together in that beer. Like that, kind of like the scenes that are in this movie. Just a lot of scenes going on with you're not sure what's going on, but all together, putting together, it comes out nice. So
I don't know that I've ever had a sour blonde ale. I've had plenty of sours.
Yeah, I've had one before. It was just a very basic one, and it was okay. I think the problem is I found whenever they try and mix two genres of beer like that, it's mostly usually kind of leans towards the other. Usually when sour is one of them, sour is the one. It's just a lighter sour in color, probably is what it is. And I mean, look at the thing. It's prickly pear, passion fruit, and hibiscus. Very like florally flavors, and so it's probably just like that's kind of its blondish.
I remember the first sour I ever had was actually one of the best sours in North Carolina. So I was set up to be disappointed by every sour thereafter, I guess. A buddy of mine that was a big beer connoisseur, and it got me into beer, actually. Really taught me everything I know about beer. We had gone to a concert in Raleigh, and after the concert, he said, there's this place up the street that has this sour on tap. It's like one of the best sours in the state, if not the country. And we got to go because I know this place. I know this is the only place you can get it. I swear I can't remember the name of it. I'm sorry. I can't remember the name of the sour. It's probably somewhere in my Untapped if I went back and looked through it. But and I was like, well, I've never had a sour. He's like, well, come on then. You're going to have one of the best sours you've ever. Well, it'll definitely be the best sour you ever had since you never had one. But it's one of the best sours I've ever had, and I've had tons of them. So that's what we did. We went to that little restaurant, got it, and I loved it. And I can't say I'm a sour beer guy because I don't really get the opportunity very much. We do have a sour barn in Wilmington that sells nothing but sours. I haven't tried yet. Yeah. It's called the Sour Barn. It's a division of one of our other breweries, and that's all they sell, which is kind of cool. But it's not that I don't like them. I just don't get the opportunity very often. You don't see them very much in the store. It's one of those that you kind of have to go to a brewery or to a restaurant that has it. I don't typically see a lot of them in the grocery store and stuff. But yeah, so that's my sour story. All right, so
sour story. I don't know. It's kind of uplifting, Tim. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I just think it's funny that my first sour I ever had was like one of the best. So now, like,
now it's all downhill.
It's all downhill now. All right. So Cody gave us a listener question, which my answer might be a little disappointing. Then she said, "What is your favorite Star Trek series? Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, etc." Here's my uncomfortable truth. I've never watched a Star Trek series to completion. I've seen one season of the original series. I've probably 5 to 6 seasons of Next Gen, only because I used to have the box set DVD and I was going through them at one time. I don't think I've ever seen an episode of Deep Space Nine or Voyager. I watched the first 2 seasons of Discovery. I just started watching half an episode of Strange New Worlds. So I'm not an expert on Star Trek. I know a lot about it through pop culture. I know about it from what I have watched. I have watched all the movies. So I have seen every Star Trek movie. But I guess by default, my favorite series, it would have to be Next Generation, only because that's the one I've seen the most. It's the one that I have probably the most familiarity with, just because, again, because I've seen it the most, and I've rewatched it the most. The seasons I have seen, I have rewatched, I think, the first 2 seasons recently. So,
yeah, I have to say I haven't really watched. Like, I've seen all the movies. I love all the Star Trek movies. I've probably only seen the original series as like a complete series, and I actually have it. I have the whole like collector set of the original series on Blu-ray, which I intend to actually do a full watch on at some point. But yeah, I mean, Cody in the question put Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. I don't know if I had to pick from those 3. I mean, if anything, the most I've seen is out of the Next Generation out of that batch, but I really didn't watch much of Deep Space Nine or Voyager. I mean, I do like Star Trek, obviously more of a Star Wars guy. Not that I'm not one of those people that think that like you have to like one and hate the other. I'm not like that, because I do enjoy, especially the movies of Star Trek. So, but yeah, I mean, if I had to pick a series right now, it would be the original series. But that new one that what is it on Paramount looks kind of interesting though. I might want to give that a watch, and I do want to watch Picard eventually because I do like his character.
Yeah, Strange New Worlds is the one that's on Paramount right now.
Yeah, and that looks pretty good.
Yeah, like I said, I've only watched half of the pilot, but I liked it. It's good. I like it so far. And it's not that I don't. I'm also more of a Star Wars guy. Again, I don't have any kind of hatred at all for Star Trek. I actually really love a lot of Star Trek stuff, but it's one of those things where I got in it late. I didn't watch them when they were airing. So to go back and say, okay, I'm going to watch 150 episodes of this series, that's a huge time commitment.
Yeah.
And it's been really hard for me to try to go back and catch up on these series. And then when you start adding Deep Space Nine and Voyager into the mix, and now you're adding hundreds of more episodes on top of just trying to catch up with the original Star Trek and Next Generation. I mean, it gets pretty crazy. So it's not for lack of wanting to go through these series. I really do. And there was a time where I was really making a dedicated effort to get back through all of Next Generation, but it's just a time constraint. And there's so much good TV out right now that there's so many new series I want to watch. I got to watch Obi-Wan. I got to watch Miss Marvel. I got to watch Hawkeye. I got to watch Loki. I got to watch, so it's like, when do you have time to watch these older series on top of that? But
yeah, we finished Obi-Wan right before recording tonight, because I made Julie, I'm like, hurry, come home, we gotta watch it before we record. I won't be able to like go to sleep tonight not without seeing it. I actually loved it. I know you've seen some of the episodes, and you said you had a couple of issues with it, but overall I freaking love that series. I know we're kind of way off of Cody's question now. We're going into the other way.
Yeah. But leave it to a bunch of Star Wars nerds to take a Star Trek question and turn it into a Star Wars discussion.
Sorry, Cody, but it was a good question.
It was a good question.
But no, but that shows how well she knows us.
That's right.
Because we've discussed Star Trek many times in this show.
That's right.
Cody, yeah, if there's anyone out there, a listener, not counting someone that knew us before the podcast, but I'll tell you, someone who's discovered the podcast that knows us better than anybody, probably from a listener point, it's definitely Cody.
Oh yeah, every episode she's been right there. So
yes, and one of these days when we have eventually a Civil War meetup, Cody better be front and center.
That's right.
At this, wherever it is, we'll make sure she's. It is possible that she can attend to it.
Yeah.
So, attend
all right, guys.
to attend it, not to it. Attend it. She already does enough for us with her tomb and her charts and stuff she makes for us. So yeah.
All right, guys. So next week starts our summer slaycation. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, I think we should start it next week. We were deciding whether or not to start it next week or the other week, but I think next week should be the start because I think on Sunday early evening I could actually get some of them watched. So I figure whenever we record next week, and we have to record the dismemberment as well. But I think I'm wondering if we should do what I said, like maybe over the weekend we'll finalize the schedule. Of how we're gonna do it, so we can kind of post it, so that way people can kind of follow along with us. Because I know we usually kind of just say it like haphazardly, and it's kind of easy for people to follow along. But this one, there's so many, it's not like it's one of our first. It's actually, I think it is technically our first summer slaycation where we're not just doing one series like chronologically like that, where it's not like, okay, you're watching The Omen, you can pretty much know which order we're gonna go in, it's like, or Final Destination, it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here it's like, we obviously will start with Dracula, it's gonna be in some sort of chronological order, but where we break it up, there might be some 2 focuses in one episode depending on how far we go. So we'll release the schedule to that so everyone can follow along.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you back here next week. And, go watch Mad God and let me know what you think, please.